Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gabe with another Fan TV, man. Back action with the video, the content. This video, go smash that like button of the content. This channel, go always subscribe, man. Look, the Ravens wrap up their night one NFL draft, right? With the 30th overall pick in the NFL draft, the Baltimore Ravens select cornerback Nate Wiggins from Clemson. Okay, the way this draft played out tonight was kind of crazy. You know, 6 quarterbacks in the top 12, wide receivers falling. I think 8 offensive tackles go. 14, the first 14 players in this draft were offensive players. Wasn't until the coach took Liatu Latu that we got our first defensive player off the board. So that meant, players started sliding on the board that originally were thought to go higher, right? Um, with Nate Wiggins, I'm not gonna say the Ravens. I don't think the Ravens reached for him. I think he was a guy that was in that range, a guy that a lot of people viewed as a first round pick. But I'm not gonna lie, right? When I saw Brian Thomas Jr. kind of having a little mini slide, I didn't think he would get past the Steelers at I think the Steelers were 20. So at that point, when he got past them, I'm kind of like, man, maybe the Ravens will trade up because for me, right, for the Ravens in this draft, it was about offensive tackle. They all kind of went, right? Okay, cool. Or if one of those star receivers start to fall, get that guy, right? You got your top three guys. The Ravens were getting nowhere near Harrison, Neighbors, Adunze. They were going to get nowhere near those guys. But Brian Thomas Jr. they had a real shot at. And I think that's the kind of guy where the Ravens could have took a chance on getting that. But now back to Nate Wiggins, right? I'm going to start off with the only thing or the major thing that's concerning about Nate Wiggins is the fact that he weighed in the combine, 170 pounds. Apparently at his pro day he got up to 180 pounds. Okay, cool. He's a very, very light and thin frame corner. Okay. And he's already not the best tackler. So his main selling point is he has to be outstanding in pass coverage. Absolutely outstanding. So just taking a corner that's under 190 pounds, it worries me, right? You want to be, especially for the Ravens who their cornerbacks take pride in coming up and hitting you, right? That's kind of the Ravens' way. So it's interesting to pick from that perspective, okay? But the overall strength of Nate Wiggins is the fact that cover ability that I talked about that he has to have, he actually does possess. So this is a guy that really, if you talk about from the beginning of college football season, listen to the Athletic Football Podcast, things like that, he's been a top half of the first round kind of guy the entire year. Kind of fell down a little bit, as the season goes along, stuff happens, whatever. So the Ravens definitely took a guy that has the potential to be a lockdown corner on the outside, right? So let's talk about some of the measurables of Nate Wiggins, right? So we're talking about 6'1", almost 6'2". We're going to call him 180 pounds because I think that's what he weighed in around there at his pro day, like 182, something like that, right? So 182 pounds. And this is the real selling point. 4'2", 840. Okay, so an absolutely blazing fast athlete. Okay, so not only can he play good coverage on the outside, short underneath, things like that, he has the long speed down the field as well. So I'm impressed by that. All right. So the Ravens did need a guy who wasn't going to get beat over top. All right. We saw what happened kind of last year with Marlon and things like that. He got beat over top a couple of times, right? So you kind of shore that up, solidify that. Okay. Now I will say for me, I don't think corner was the biggest need round one. I know a lot of people were concerned about cornerback. But that just wasn't my biggest need round one. But good player falls to you, the Ravens are always going to jump on that. Okay, so it is what it is with that. Now, for what it does for the team as a whole, this kind of gives the Ravens that flexibility back to put Marlon Humphrey on the inside at slot, right? It gives them flexibility. They still want to put Kyle Hamilton in there, things like that. But the main thing is they don't have to have an over reliance on Marlon Humphrey, right? So Marlon Humphrey can play slot. He can still play outside a little bit. He can take a breather every now and then. Right now, last year it was an over reliance on, or at least going into the year, on what Marlon Humphrey could be, what he does mean to the team. Right? Brandon Stevens stepped up, played tremendously well. Arthur Marlette stepped up, played tremendously well. Right? So the Ravens felt like they needed to add more corners to the room. And in this era of the NFL, where it's a passing league and teams are throwing the ball all over the yard, that means that their mirror position, their opposite position across from them, cornerback, is just as important as wide receiver, right? So I understand the Ravens thinking from that perspective, right? They need to get another corner. That's how they view it. And with all the offensive tackles and wide receivers, kind of fallen, kind of gone. Okay, right. Only guy that I guess you could really say was Adonai Mitchell from Texas. If the Ravens would have taken him, okay, I can understand that as well, but they didn't. All right, so for Nate Wiggins, right, I think he has all the potential to be a lockdown corner. That's what his selling point is, right? I am a coverage corner. I come in here to lock down wide receivers, right? And that's what you want from your cornerback, right? I saw something that said he's a corner's corner, right? He quarterbacks are gonna love watching this guy play. All right. The only thing that does worry me is that if bigger, more physical receivers on the outside can bully him and then coming up making tackles and run support. All right. The Ravens don't typically like corners who bail out and don't tackle, right? Now, according to the scouting reports that I've seen, Wiggins, even though he is small in frame, he does have the effort, right? So, at least he's not complete, like I'm out the way. He does have the effort and want to when it comes to tackle. So that's a big part of it. All right. So if I had to give this Ravens draft pick a grade, I'm going to say it's a solid B. It's a B. It's a solid pick. I'm not going to say I'm disappointed by it. As the draft got closer, I think two possibilities came to light for the Ravens. They were either going to trade back out of the first round, or they were going to draft a defensive player, right? Whether that was an edge or a corner or whatever. That's what was coming down the pike. So, like I said, I'm not going to say I'm surprised by it or anything like that. But day two, it comes very, very interesting, right? Because you weren't able to address offensive line, and I still want to see a wide receiver be picked in one of these in the top 100. So either that with that second or third round at 93, I want to see the Ravens pick a wide receiver. Okay, so that's what I'm looking forward to, man. Give me your thoughts on the Ravens drafting Nate Wiggins, and also give me a grade on it. A, B, C, D, F if you don't like it, right? So, but let me know in the comments. We'll talk about it there. But it's Gabriel, just on the Fan TV. I'm out.